Hello and welcome to my channel, Glamour and Goosebumps, where we talk about all the weird, the creepy, and the unexplained. On today's episode, we will be talking more about Brazil and all the crazy UFO, extraterrestrial things that happen over there that is just completely unexplained. But what I love is that their government is super open and has all these declassified documents, and so I've just been going through them and giving you guys all this amazing juicy information, so I hope you enjoy. But I wanted to give a couple just tidbits of information. I will be featured on a podcast, TTM Podcast, September 16th. I will link it in the description box below. James Harrison and I are going to be talking more about aliens, and I think you should totally tune in. Also, there's this incredible artist, Carrie Mitchell. Take a look at this art behind me. I'm going to pan in real quick so you can see it. It's amazing. She's incredible. I'm going to put in the description box her art gallery. She has a small business, and I think right now more than ever we should be supporting small businesses. Plus, wouldn't you love to have some of this alien art in your house? It was extremely affordable, really cool, and the care that went into it was just phenomenal. So thank you so much, Carrie. Also, if you want to have other monsters like other than aliens to get your monster fix for the week, go check out Crypt TV. They are a Facebook page. I get all my monster mania from them, and I just love it because if I'm not giving your spook fix, I know that they will. So without further ado, let's go ahead and head to Brazil so we can talk about all these things that my Brazilian friends are experiencing. I hope you enjoy. So with that being said, let's talk about Brazil. So we're going to talk about two actual UFO instances that I found when I was going down that rabbit hole a couple weeks ago. And I feel like they're so important to talk about because Brazil has some really spooky stuff happen. Like real crazy. And the fact that the government just like comes out and says, oh yeah, that happened, trips me out. It really does, because I'm like, okay, you ain't gonna try to deny it, then why am I trying to deny that they exist? Official Brazil UFO night would take place May 19th, 1986. So there would be like 21 reported unidentified flying objects flying all the way from Sao Paulo all the way to Rio de Janeiro. So kind of like all over the place, right? You know, hundreds of people would claim to be seeing these round, like, bright lights hovering in the sky, and they would actually hover there for, some say, up to 7 hours. These 21 crafts would actually jam the air traffic control that was in the Sao Paulo as well as the Rio de Janeiro airport. So they were seeing these pop up on the radar, and they were end up like almost causing like this issue with their air traffic control machines, like almost like making them go skits. Really weird, right? First seen on the radar at 6:30 p.m. Two air traffic control staffers would claim to see two intense lights about 10 meters out from the runway. So like right in front of their face. Whoa. An hour later, 8 more targets would appear on the radar. At approximately 8 p.m., another witness would claim to see an object headed towards the runway. It had no defined kind of edges, and it was glowing red and orange. And he said that it would approach the runway as if it was going to land, and then it would just like go back and shoot up into the air. At 8 p.m., another pilot would report into the Sao Paulo air traffic control and tell them that they were seeing this weird unidentified object flying. And this pilot would actually go and try to pursue these objects. I mean, like not fast or anything like that, but just keeping on its trail. And I guess the UFOs did not like that, because then he asked if because he started to get like really nervous, he decided to ask if he could just like land in Sao Paulo, even though it's not where he was supposed to go. And so when he's trying to land, the UFO actually dodges for him, like tries to like come for him like full speed, and then right at the last minute like brakes. And it would do this multiple times. So now this guy's like running out of fuel. He's trying to land in Sao Paulo. This UFO is kind of being like aggressive with him. And that would scare the absolute bejesus out of me for sure. So this, you know, this aircraft would come down, try to hit him. So he would attempt 4 times, finally landing right before he ran out of fuel. At 9:20, I mean, air traffic control is just freaked out. They're like, what is going on here? And so they decide to call in the Air Defense Command. to come check this out and like figure out like, hey, like what are these objects doing? They're causing our planes to have issues landing, and it could potentially be, you know, a risk to people flying. At 10:23 p.m., the first round of 7 military jets would come and start to investigate what was going on. These crafts would be clocked going anywhere from 850 miles per hour all the way up to 999 miles per hour, so extremely fast. And even these fighter jets, being some of the fastest fighter jets that we have, were having issues keeping up with these objects. And a lot of the pilots came out and said that the way that they were weaving and moving was something that they had never seen before. You know, just the way that the ship was actually moving. It was very odd and had never been, you know, witnessed by these pilots who have been flying for years at this point. Sounds kind of sketch, right? At this point, one of the pilots, Bristle Jadot, would actually call into air traffic control because, you know, it was having issues with its radar detecting these, you know, these objects. And then the air traffic control would tell him that he had 13 of these crafts hot on pursuit coming really quick and coming for him. So super, super scared. And then all of a sudden, Bristle said that 6 show up on one side and 7 show up on the other, but they were nowhere to be seen. And he was sure because he kept looking, wondering like where they had gone. So it was just all really, really strange and odd that they just all of a sudden would appear like that, if not using some type of cloaking mechanism. The pilots would actually stay up until 1 a.m., ultimately like running out of fuel before coming down, because they just really were investigating these ships, and they kept kind of trying to pursue them. And then right as they would get close, of course they would take off because they were so much faster, and they weren't able to really catch up with them. But they were able to get enough of a look at these objects to know that it was not something that they had, you know, seen before. As far as from like a pilot's perspective, it's not anything that they've ever seen flying in the sky. So then these, you know, fighter pilots would actually go a few days after and give a press release on what they saw that day. But a lot of these documents are now open because of that Freedom of Information Act that I talked about in my previous Brazil UFO video. And so you can actually find a lot of this information on the Brazil government website if you want to, you know, look at some of those declassified documents that I pulled a lot of this information from. So the next case that we are going to go ahead and investigate together is actually going to be the Varginha case, and this would take place January 19th, 1996, and it would happen over the course of a couple days. At approximately 4 a.m., an object would be seen falling from the sky. Weird, right? By multiple witnesses claiming to see this almost ball of fire hit the ground. Maybe it's a meteor, maybe it's not. Several hours later, people would report seeing creatures, like 6 to 7 of them walking on kind of like the side of the road from 6:30 a.m. to like 7:30 a.m., like probably on their way to work. And they like at first like kind of thought that these like creatures were like wild animals because they were different than they had ever seen before. At noon, 3 women ages 14 to 22 would have some of the most credible eyewitness account of seeing this kind of creature. So it would be 2 sisters and then a friend, and they would give their description of what they saw, and they said that this beast was brown skin. It kind of reeked like pneumonia. It was about 5 feet tall. It had bright red eyes, big head, really skinny. And they said that it was, you know, potentially hurt or something because it was having a hard time like walking around, like almost limping. It was bipedal. And then it had these really weird, like Y-shaped feet. And it had, you know, just kind of like, I think it was like 2 fingers and 3 toes. like real weird, and then some spikes going down like the back of it, but it was brown and it reeked, like I said, smelled really foul. And the girls actually ran home to tell their mom that they thought that they saw a demon because they could not understand what they had seen with these bright red eyes and this weird kind of creature that they had never experienced before. I mean, let's be real. If I saw that, I'd be like, Ma, I saw a demon too, and Jesus is real. One of these creatures was allegedly caught by the Brazilian army. And the reason why people know it was caught was because 50 witnesses saw them catch this creature with a net and then throw it in like almost like a wooden crate on top of their car and then just like drive off in a marked military vehicle. And so they claimed that they had caught one of the creatures. And so, I mean, people were like tripping. They're like, okay, well, maybe this isn't a wild animal then. I'm not quite sure what it is. Then another creature would be captured, but unfortunately, this capture would end in tragedy. So a military vehicle would be driving down the side of the road, having two soldiers in it, one of them being Marco Chavez and another person driving the vehicle. They would be driving and they would end up seeing like this creature out of the corner of their eye, and they would actually almost hit the creature with their car. So they would pull over and attempt to capture it because of course they've been given like strict orders, like you find one of these and you capture it. And so Marco would get out of the car, jump into the bushes, and actually capture this creature barehanded, bringing it inside of the vehicle and sitting it actually on his lap. Now, Marco would describe this creature as being, very similar to what the two sisters said. So, it was small, it was about 5 feet in features. It had, these really weird Y-shaped kind of like feet. And what he said was, it had this really nasty ammonia smell. So very similar to what the girls would say, but that it had this nasty, like greasy oil that was like secreting from its body, and it ended up getting all over Marco. And it makes me think, like, how like animals have like defense mechanisms? Like maybe it was secreting this, this type of like grease because it was maybe like a defense mechanism, like a poison or something, right? Anyways, so they would take this creature to the hospital, and when they take it to the hospital, this is where 200 people would claim to have seen this beast that Marco would bring in. And the doctors would look at it, the nurses would look at it, and they were like, what is this thing? Unable to help him, of course, he would end up leaving with the creature and going to a military hospital, where then, of course, the creature would never be seen again. 3 weeks later, this is where it gets really, really sad. Marco would be admitted into the hospital with, extreme abdominal pain. He was having such extreme pain that he was vomiting, having diarrhea. He couldn't keep anything down. He was just sicker than he's ever been before. And his wife at the time was pregnant with their 2 twin girls. And, Marco would be in a fight for his life to, try to survive whatever this illness was. Now, these doctors would give him, every antibiotic under the sun to try to stop this infection. And unfortunately, he would succumb to his injuries and pass away. But again, the doctors have no idea like where this bacteria would come from or how he would have contracted it. The only thing that he can think of is that greasy secretion that creature was emitting off. It's actually unknown if more people died in relation to this accident and this instance that happened, because of course, like, the government would never tell. We also have no idea what happened, because remember how those people were like saying that there were 7 of these creatures just kind of like roaming loose? So we have no idea if all 7 of those were captured. Like, we know for sure 2 were captured. Who knows if they survived? I would imagine like probably not if they were hurt from that crash. But, just really, really strange, right? So the government documents are up on the government official website because, again, remember the Freedom of Information Act that was passed. So you can actually read these documents for yourself and know that what I'm telling you is true and really, really crazy, right? I love that the Brazilian government's kind of open, but let's be real, they're not super open because the army still today denies that this encounter of the capturing of the aliens like ever existed. So they're not willing to like tell you everything. They're definitely still discreet about it, but they'll tell you little inklings of information that make you know that there's some truth to extraterrestrials visiting and being here on Earth today. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that part 2 of Brazil. They have so many crazy, crazy encounters that are going on, and they continue to happen. Like there was recently another crash, and this was May of this year, of a UFO, and military was brought in, and I will actually link an awesome video by my friend, the alien hunter, that shows you kind of everything that happened with that crash that happened May of this year. So spooky stuff. Maybe it was happening in the 80s, the 90s, but it's still happening today. You can guarantee that. Just a reminder, I will be on TTM Podcast on September 16th with James Harris. I'll link it in the description box below. Make sure that you tune in for that incredible podcast where we talk about aliens and you get a more in-depth look of how I feel and, you know, just all the knowledge that I have learned going through this awesome just experience of really diving into alien knowledge and putting on that old tin hat, so to speak. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and have a spooky, spooky, spooky week. Yeah, I can't sing, by the way. That was horrible. Bye. Have a good day.